The reason I don't want to go to something too dark right now is because I don't want to be influenced making all this value of this black man even darker. I can say an awful lot, as I've said before, with the features and starting to develop those darks without losing control and having him go flat. That's one thing I just want to try to avoid more than anything. But I want to look at all of the places where, if I can subtly see that there's a little bit more, just like on our sphere, a little darker separation between this light and this. This almost becomes like a primary light in a way, the way it's going over the brow, even though this is our primary light on this side. This reflective light is pretty pronounced. But you see that dividing line again in the same way that it shows up on the sphere. You have the separation, and at one point there is usually a place where it's a little bit darker. Now we have the cheek and we have the nose, so there's also a place where it's having the least amount of light on that side of the bridge of the nose, and then we come down and this actually comes up enough we start seeing a little reflective light through here from this side, and it might be bouncing off of the nose. We aren't quite sure, but then we see this is also sticking up enough. His nose is coming forward enough that we see a little reflective light from the left side as we're looking at the drawing. That always gets a little confusing when we're talking about the left and the right side. Usually when I'm referring to the left or the right, I'm talking as we're looking at the drawing and not what would be in reality for the person himself. So let's go ahead and just pick out a few things and might pick up the eraser here and there and just continue to mold some of this stuff that doesn't seem like, oh, I don't want to get into that much detail, but some of these things are some of those subtle little things that tell the story and will register in your mind, I think, a lot more than you may think. I don't want to make them dominant. I want to have them be a complement and a foundation for what else I'm going to put in here. It really is like that too, because I want to be able to have a good enough base that's saturated enough with whatever value I put down here that whatever I put on here will read. And what I mean by read, it will be clear that it's meant to be a variation in the skin and it isn't just the paper. It's something that I intended to be there, even though I'm taking advantage also of the texture of the paper. I love this through here. If you can look at your own, you'll probably see some of the grain or the texture that is left by the natural tooth. And I can refine some of it even more and make it smoother, but these are the kind of things that I don't want to burnish out by using a tortillon or even the brush too much. Remember what I said about the brush? You can think, well, I don't want to spend all the time putting all this in there when I can just use the brush, but the brush has a tendency to make it too soft, and it also distributes your darks into your lights, and that means that there's less value often here, or it makes this darker so that these don't show up as much and it starts flattening out your drawing. And everything I do, I'm trying to really strain to see that gradation, that contour and curve. Now, once in a while, you'll find that maybe you have to get a little closer down to the control end, but it's just momentary. As far as I'm concerned, I want to be able to get back up here into that balance point between flow and grace and control. And if I can continue practicing that, I will have even a wonderful control even with my little short strokes. And it still adds that wonderful transition between the end of the stroke and into what you already have on here. So there's always a gradation and a connection that doesn't look choppy. Otherwise, it becomes like this, where I'm going to come in here, and then I'm going to come in here, and it's very possible that I'm going to start seeing the joints. This is kind of like scrubbing. If you never pick up your pencil and you just want to color in an area, you're probably going to see these areas where you're going to see it coming together. Well, with the tapered stroke, I have that taper. It's just like we've done with the extension of the patches. I can come in here seamlessly and continue my value and my tone without having these joints. And that is a much bigger, I think, advantage than you might realize. Maybe some of you do, but it just adds that wonderful connection and flow and grace, as I say, from time to time throughout your drawing, from one feature to the next, from one value to the next. And I can still come in and do some very detailed things, especially if I'm patient. I like to just watch not only my values build up, but some of these little variations, these details, just increase as I go and stay in control. Control in the right way, not control like this, where you have tension and you don't have all that wonderful flexibility, but exactness in that compass stroke. But control in that I am doing what I want to do. I get to watch it until it's just right, instead of just losing my bearings on how much is going down, and suddenly I realize I have to back up, or maybe I can't even back up.